my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Robert B. Reich. Robert B. Reich is Emeritus Carmel P. Friesen Professor of Public Policy at UC Berkeley's Goldman School of Public Policy. He has served in 3 U.S. administrations, including as Secretary of Labor under President Bill Clinton, a role for which Time magazine named him one of the 10 most effective cabinet secretaries of the 20th century. A prolific author, Professor Reich has written 18 books on economics, democracy, and social justice, and his groundbreaking work has reached millions through his award-winning documentaries, public media, and best-selling books, including Inequality for All, which sparked significant public debate and discourse around income inequality. In his work, he continues to remind us that education is not just a personal investment, it is a public good, and that public education in particular is a critical element of both democracy and opportunity. Please join me in welcoming Professor Robert Reich.
Well, parents and friends and significant others and insignificant others, and Dean Young and faculty and staff of this wonderful School of Education, along with Keldon Clegg and Meg Stomsky and Emma Rose Neal, thank you all. I'll be short. I love education. I've been teaching for most of the last 44 years. I also love UC Berkeley. It is one of the most powerful engines of upward mobility in America. 30% of our students transfer here from community colleges. Many are the first generation in their families to attend college. Now, this is all cause for celebration, but it also poses a paradoxical danger. With inequalities of income and wealth wider today than they've been in over a century, parents across America now face the possibility of unprecedented wealth for children with the quote-unquote right educational credentials, or possible poverty for those without. What you learn is what you'll earn, as the popular saying goes. When I was Secretary of Education, Secretary of Labor and Education, actually, I get them confused. They're the same thing. When I was Secretary of Labor, I used to go around the country saying exactly that. What you learn will determine what you earn. But here's the thing. If education is simply a private investment, yielding private returns, there's no reason why anyone other than the investor should pay for it, which may be why increasing numbers of parents around this country resist paying for the education of other children, especially those who are poorer or who require extra teacher time and resources. And why legislatures around this country have been cutting funding for public universities. If a university degree is a private investment offering a good return to the individual, they argue, why should taxpayers bear the cost? It would seem more appropriate for students and their parents to take out loans to cover it, just as people borrow for all sorts of other worthwhile investments, such as a new home or a business. But education is not just a private investment. It is also a public good. Our democracy depends on it. Throughout history, tyrants have understood that their major enemy is an educated citizenry. Slaveholders prohibited the enslaved from learning to read. Nazis burned books. Putin and Xi censor the media. Our current president, no, I'll get to our current president in a minute. The point is, ignorance is the handmaiden of tyranny. America's founders knew this. They saw how easily emperors and kings could mislead uneducated publics. The arrival of a new nation required a public that was wise enough to keep power within bounds. People who were imbued, in the language of the time, with civic virtue. Thomas Jefferson assured Americans that if they could, quote, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of the mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of the day. So America became the cradle of free, universal, public education. Now, I don't have any easy answers to all of the challenges we are facing in classrooms across this country. But educators and the public must never give up on these three principles: an education that is free, an education that is universal, an education that is public. And please, let's ban cell phones in schools. Or here's an idea. Maybe we tax social media platforms and we use the proceeds to give every public school student access to one-on-one tutoring. Now, if we stop thinking about education solely as a private investment on the way to a good-paying job and see it really for what it is, as a public good, we would give every child an understanding of our political system, of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, separation of powers, checks and balances, and federalism. We would give every child an understanding of the meaning and importance of the rule of law and why no one is above it. This is, after all, what we demand of people who want to become naturalized citizens. They have to pass a civics test covering the organization of the U.S. government and the Constitution and American history. Every child in America should also understand why we are all obligated to make our system work better. And I don't mean just more efficiently, but also work for all the people. which means grasping the importance, the central importance of social justice, of equal political rights and equal economic opportunity. Civic education should instill in young people a passion for truth, enabling them to think critically, be skeptical but not cynical about what they hear and read, find reliable sources of information, apply basic logic and analysis, and know enough history and the physical world to differentiate between fact and fiction. Such an education would also urge young people to communicate with others who do not share their views. Teach them how to listen. Teach them how to open their minds to the possibility that their own views and preconceptions may be wrong. To discover why people with opposing views believe what they do. One of the things I used to do in my classrooms here at Berkeley, one of the first things is ask my students to find people who disagree with them. Find other students who disagree with you. That is the best way of learning. Now, the current president of the United States does not appear to have learned any of this. Now, I don't want to say anything in this honorable assembly that might get me, or this wonderful school, or this great university, or this fabulous state of California into trouble. And I certainly don't want to offend any of you, so I'm going to just stick to the facts, all right? The facts. On the campaign trail, he vowed to, quote, liberate our children from the Marxist lunatics and perverts who've infested our educational system, unquote. He has canceled federal exams that measure student progress and ordered his wrestling executive turned education secretary to shut most of her department. He's attacking the freedom of speech of university students and professors, seeking to deport international students and faculty solely because of what they have said or written, threatening to halt federal funds to universities that practice DEI. Now, I don't mean to be impertinent, seriously, but what's wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion? He is gutting the funding of the National Institutes of Health, which provides a large portion of biomedical research, and gutting the funding of the National Science Foundation, responsible for much of America's engineering and computer research. And along with certain governors, he's attacking the teaching in our schools of America's shameful histories of slavery and Native American genocide. He's cutting funding for libraries around the country, which is jeopardizing literacy development and reading programs, reliable internet access for those without it at home, and homework help for low-income students. Now, I keep hearing that all this amounts to an attack on the liberal state, or the culmination of our culture wars. No. What's really occurring is an attack on the American mind, an attack on the foundation stone of American democracy. I could not imagine a better time to be graduating. I mean it. If everything were going wonderfully well, if we didn't face all of these challenges to democracy and education, if we didn't face the related problems of poverty and homelessness, climate change, racism, misogyny, and brutality here in the United States and around the world, let me ask you, you who are going to be getting your degrees in a few minutes, in the words of Mary Oliver, what would you do with your one wild and precious life? But you lucky soon to have your degree people, you faced some of the most extraordinary challenges in this nation's history. What a fabulous time to be graduating. May you take these challenges on with a gusto worthy of this great university. May you take these challenges on with an excitement and enthusiasm worthy of those of us who believe in you. Educate like democracy depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Reich, for those inspiring words. And let's have another round of applause.